Yo, 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 what up? It is war number 3 of season 37, and here you guys can see that we are finally in tier 2. Things are going very well for us. We are kind of right on schedule. The goal for this season is Platinum 1. I don't think that mathematically we can reach Masters this season, even if we went out, just because we've had a couple wars at a lower multiplier. And this multiplier just multiplies your war points that you earn each war by this number, and that is what, how we get the season brackets and stuff like that. But anyway, we're up against Jug 9. I'm going to do my best to be as quick as possible with the scouting part. I know that a lot of you guys like it, and I like it too. I just don't want to post war videos that are like 40 minutes long. So, all right, first we're going to go over the bans. So these guys, again, they banned Apocalypse. That's 2 wars in a row. I don't have access to my Apocalypse. They also banned Kingpin and Quake. So to me, these are very, very good bans, very smart bans. At tier 2, also, there are 2 blacklisted champs and then 2 whitelisted champs. So anyway, all right, let's get into the actual path here, or the map, I should say. So over here, and again, I'm going to try to fly through this a little bit, but one thing too I'm going to mention here at the top is the difference between Conduit 2, which is the Conduit Global at tiers 3 and below, and Conduit 3, which is the Expert Map tier, which is tiers 2 and 1. It is pretty significant. So Conduit, I think the jump from Conduit 2 to Conduit 3 is like, it's pretty hardcore. Conduit 3 is significantly more difficult and more annoying to get around, and it's really because of one thing. So the way that Conduit works in general is any damage that you deal to a Conduit defender that is energy-based, they will regen from that. Now, if you deal an energy DOT effect, like Incinerate or Shock or Cold Snap, they will regen even more than their base regen for energy damage. Now, at tiers 3 and below, that's all you have to worry about with Conduit. However, at tiers 2 and 1 with Conduit 3, the most upgraded version of Conduit, anytime you knock a Conduit defender down, even with a physical attack, then they are basically inflicted with a 0 damage energy damage over time effect. And I think that it goes in order, and they can stack. So what that means is, if I were to use a physical, this is a bad example because it's Mr. Sinister, but just go with me. If I was to use a physical damage dealer only, like a Mole Man, for example, again, not a good matchup, I'm just saying, if I was to use a physical damage dealer like Mole Man, even though he only deals physical damage, if I were to knock this Mr. Sinister down, he would gain a shock debuff, and then for the duration of that shock debuff, he would regen, I think, 80% of all damage that he takes. So it is significant, and basically at tiers 2 and 1, if you can, you don't want to knock a Conduit defender down. So that's the easiest way to deal with Conduit. The second easiest way to deal with Conduit is to use a heal blocker, like an Omega Sentinel with her heal block, or a Warlock with his passive heal block. Both really good options for this fight in particular. And then the third basically answer for Conduit is to use a sick and tired attacker. And I think that there are like 15 to 20 sick and tired attackers, but the most meta attackers that fall into that category are going to be Cosmic Ghost Rider, Apocalypse, then you've also got like Nebula. I think that Angela also works. Okay, so anyway, now that we've gotten that out of the way, over here you're going to want to use a Void. Up here, this is Masochism over time, but you can use Apocalypse if he's not banned. You can also just use, a mutant killer like Nimrod or Omega Sentinel if you want. Any Mole Man counter, or I'm sorry, any MODOK counter here is fine. Archangel works, Mole Man obviously, Corvus works. Corvus wasn't banned, so we used him in all of our battle groups a little bit. Over here, you've got Armor Lane, and then you've also got, I think that this is, it's Power Burn. So Power Burn, Shock, somewhere along this path. Hulkling is still really good here. Hulkling works for this fight. You just would you probably don't want to knock him down. You can also use, a heal blocker. You can also use like Gallon on this path. Gallon with Conduit, because typically the rotation I believe that you want to use is you're going to build up some planetary mass. You want to throw a heavy attack to double your planetary mass, which again, that's a knockdown. Don't want to do that with Conduit Defenders. And then you're going to throw your SP1, another knockdown, to do the harvest damage. I think with Gallon, you can bypass all of that, and what our Gallon guy did this for, he took a lot of, I think like 4 or 5 Conduit Defenders, is if you build to your SP3, then you'll instigate the harvest, and you can just let the harvest naturally expire without any additional knockdowns after the SP3, and it'll still do all that burst damage. So that's an option as well. And then, yeah, I mean, basically you can armor break here like Corvus would work on both of these fights. All right, moving along to the middle island. We definitely used a Corvus here too. All right, Domino, just any Domino counter. Nimrod is going to be best. Omega Sentinel works. Here you can use Human Torch. This does have debuff immunity after knockdown. Guidance does bypass that. So you can use Human Torch with Flame On if you want to. You can also save your Flame On, just use Human Torch and either not knock him down, or he'll just be debuff immune and purify your incinerates after knockdown, and then you can just kind of reapply them. You can use Human Torch over here. We used a Kitty here. Omega Sentinel, I believe, is what we used here. You can also use Warlock here. Warlock and Omega Sentinel also work here. This does have spiked armor, so you could use a champ like Crossbones. That would be kind of an interesting champ that you don't really have to knock people down with. And then over here, I took this path here. We've got Conflictor Longshot, probably one of the most meta placements over the last few seasons. I took this with Torch with Flame On, but no guidance. I just played him stun immune. You guys will see that fight. You can take this fight with Torch without Flame On. You just have to be aware of his power and know when the Conflictor timer is going to eat one of your incinerates. Here, this is Vivified now at tiers 3 and below. It's Energized. Energized just enhances the combat power rate, so it makes them gain more power when you hit them. Vivified has the exact same effects as Energized, so it does exactly the same thing, but in addition to that, this defender is Power Burn, Power Drain, and Power Steal immune, so you can't use like a Vision or something like that on this fight, or like a Magic. I used CGR here. You guys will see how fast that fight was. This path is really good for CGR or Hercules, but really nothing big here. Down here, Nimrod here would be great. Angela would also work very well here, especially with Odin pre-fights, unless she was like very high sig and you didn't need Odin pre-fights. Here you can use Shang-Chi, or my preferred counter is just Cosmic Ghost Rider. You just want to use a Power Start 1 boost. You want to parry, go directly into your light ending combo, parry, and then throw your SP2 immediately. Don't worry about heavying. Don't worry about your medium ender. Don't worry about Fate Seal or anything. You just want to kill him as quickly as possible. And with power back boosts, you're going to get the job done really fast. This is a good Kitty fight. You can also use Human Torch here. That would be totally fine. Alright, so I ended up taking this fight. This node, if you guys aren't familiar, has changed since last season. It is now Hazard, Shift, Incinerate, and Shock, and it also has Aggression Prowess. Now, there is a new champ in the game that recently, I think, made Kabam quite a bit of money with Cavalier Crystal sales and his arena, which I think the second round of which is ongoing, and that is Iron Doom. Iron Doom is Incinerate and Shock immune. He converts Prowess into Energy Vulnerability. He has passive stun. He is literally tailor-made for this node, and this is probably the best matchup in the game for Iron Doom. So anyway, we do have one Iron Doom in this battle group that's ranked up. I really wanted to send him, but unfortunately I just could not make it work. I needed that guy to use a couple other attackers that only he had available. And I ended up taking this fight with CGR. I would not say like the best option, but I would say a very safe option, and you guys will kind of see my strategy. It'll be the exact same strategy as that void down there, not worrying about damnation or getting my judgments up, just literally killing him as quickly as possible. And then standard Nick Fury counters, Omega Red, Kitty, Archangel. Okay, so up here, this is a King Groot. I know he's covered up, but so we ended up using Gallon for all 4 of these fights. Gallon is buffet immune, so he's good for this fight here. And again, the key with using Gallon against Conduit is just to get to your SP3 and let Harvest basically expire. And once it expires, it'll do big burst damage. Here, Apocalypse is perfect for this. He was banned. I think that we just used Archangel with Guidance here. Very easy. You could also use Kitty, of course. This is pretty good placement here. So Cap Sam Wilson, this node has, I can't remember what it's called, but basically for each armor effect the defender has, the attacker has a chance to glance. So Sam Wilson gets armors over the course of the fight, increasing the attacker's chance to glance. And if you try to nullify or armor break him, his armors will become passives instead of active buffs. So this is really good placement. I honestly can't remember who we sent here, but I mean, you could just use somebody like Human Torch. Obviously, you can use Human Torch for anything. You can use Hercules here, who is whitelisted. That's probably what I would do. You can also use like Quake. If she's not banned, she would be totally fine. Archangel would be okay as well. Yeah, anyway, you pretty much just don't want to throw specials against Sam Wilson, and without your specials, you know, you can glance quite a bit, basically. All right, moving on to Middle Island here. Here we go. There we are. Okay, so we used a Mega Sentinel here with a heal block passive for both of these fights. Then we used a Scorpion, Awakened Scorpion here. This node will make the defender's special attacks passively unblockable if they have at least 3 prowess effects. As a defender, Apocalypse starts with 3 prowess effects. But an Awakened Scorpion can block unblockable special attacks as long as the defender is taunted, and he inflicts a long taunt debuff with his SP1. So basically, with Scorpion, you just want to recycle your SP1s, and then that's like just super easy, funny fight. Over here, we used Mole Man. I've talked about this in previous videos, but Mole Man against this Null is very good. He can block unblockable attacks as long as he has at least 1 monster mass and a point in danger ground. And then for this fight, you know, if you take a blocked hit from Annihilus, then you'll get inflicted with a debuff. Mole Man will convert that debuff into monster mass, and then you can utilize Mole Man's unstoppable quote-unquote counterpunch mechanic where you basically hold block, they hit into your block, you go unstoppable and immediately counter them with a medium, and that's a good way to get your ends here. So we just use Mole Man for both of these fights. CGR can take this path by himself. This does have Mighty Charge, so if you do use CGR, then he can purify your armor break effects when he dashes in at you, so you kind of just have to be a little bit aggressive. What we ended up doing is just we used Kitty Pryde here, and we used a Nimrod here because we had them available. But if you have CGR and you want to, you know, send one guy down with just CGR as opposed to having 2 separate counters for this path, then CGR would definitely work. You could also use Omega Red for this fight, of course, and like Guardian or Silver Centurion for this fight. Even Omega Sentinel works. And then here we used a Kitty Pryde, but you can use Human Torch with Flame On, obviously. This one also has Mighty Charge. All right, moving on to the right island in Section 2. This is a really interesting placement. It's a good placement, especially with Kingpin Band. This has Conflictor now. It also has Hazard Shift, Bleed, and Shock. So it's the same Hazard Shift as this path. So with Conflictor makes this node a little bit more complicated, and specifically this placement pretty complicated. The safest matchup is probably Thing here. Thing is Bleed and Shock immune, and with Guidance, he will bypass Conflictor. Thing is just pretty slow. Thing is pretty ideal for this fight. What we ended up doing is I actually used my Guardian for this fight. And Guardian can parry non-contact hits, so you guys will see it, but basically, also like mine is Sig 200, so he's he's gonna just heal from willpower with the shock and bleed effects. I just used a guidance so that my stuns were passive instead of active, so as to not to inflict or proc conflictor. Now another option here, which is kind of an oddball option, but it is definitely an option, is Angela. Angela, you definitely want to have either high sig or with Odin buffs placed on her so that she becomes nullify resistant basically. And then also you would want to have guidance, but she can also parry non-contact hits, which makes her a little bit safer to use against Maw. You guys can just block his normal mediums like you would any attacker, and then you can knock him down so that you don't have to worry about his falter mechanic. Alright, over here we used Human Torch here. I use a CGR here. Now, the reason... CGR I would not say is a great matchup for this Nova. I took off Dex. I used an invulnerability boost knowing that he was going to get to an SP3. You guys will see how that fight goes. Not an ideal matchup. The reason that I kind of forced myself with that option is I wanted to give myself this fight with CGR because I couldn't fit Iron Doom on our in our attack plan. And I felt like the safest option for this fight available, other than a rank 3 thing, was my rank 4 Guardian. I felt comfortable taking this fight. So basically, there are 2 of my attackers. I absolutely had to bring them for these 2 fights here. And, Torch doesn't really work on these paths. I could have forced it here, but that's pretty dangerous. And then this is Bleed and Shock. Torch can't take this path, so that doesn't work. And then Guardian wouldn't be able to take this because of Soul Imprisonment eating up his armor buff at the beginning of the fight, and Korg is shock immune. So basically it just didn't make any sense other than this path. I used Human Torch here, and I was like, look, it's not ideal, but I can make Cosmic Ghost Rider work with this fight. So that's why we did that. Up here, we've got a Kingpin. You can use any Kingpin counter, but we ended up sending an Omega Red for this entire path. Because Mephisto is a conduit defender, you just don't want to knock him down with Omega Red. Basically, just stay close to him, let your spores do the damage, but don't knock him down to get that degen. It just doesn't matter, and if you knock him down, he's going to start regenning for the entirety of the debuffs that he gets from the global node. And then, same thing here is just standard Man-Thing counters, Omega Red, Red Hulk, Overseer, Dr. Doom would work, the usual. Okay, up here, Iron Doom. Pretty interesting placement there. Iron Doom is Incinerate and Shock Immune, and he starts every fight with an armor buff. This is Hazard Shift, Incinerate, Incinerate and Poison, excuse me. The best matchup here is Cosmic Ghost Rider. He will start armor broken so that he is not Incinerate or shock immune. The biggest thing is if he doesn't have his aura up, he cannot, his specials won't be passively unblockable. That's the danger with Doom, is if he gets his aura up, then his specials are passively unblockable. CGR can just nuke him to oblivion. I did not take this fight, however. I gave this to somebody with a Corvus who also nuked the hell out of him. This is very good placement. I think that CGR is probably the best option for this fight as well, because he is a sick and tired attacker, so you don't have to worry about Conduit once you've applied 3 debuffs. Basically, once you get to your special, then you won't have to worry about Conduit anymore. And you'll obviously Fate Seal him if your CGR is awakened. Just probably use an invulnerability boost. I think we just had a guy take this with Corvus, which is not an ideal matchup, but Corvus can overpower Conduit with his SP2 damage, and he was built up. Over here, this is, basically a Torture and Apocalypse fight. With Torch, obviously you need Flame On, and we put a Guidance on here because it has Conflictor. Apocalypse would be great if he wasn't banned here. Apocalypse is also a sick and tired attacker. This is a Scorpion fight. I mentioned that in my last video. You just want to recycle your SP1s with Scorpion. You'll keep Man-God taunted, so he'll keep throwing his specials. He'll keep killing himself from Sting debuff damage, and if he gets to 2 bars of power, you can just block it as long as your Scorpion is awakened. We did use Tigra for this fight here. I think that we also used Tigra for this fight. So Tigra's obviously very good for this fight. Tigra can work against Conduit defenders. Her damage is just gimped because when you're knocking them down, they will regen. Now, the tricky thing with Cersei is on stun immune nodes, basically, you typically want to bait out heavies from the defender. But when Cersei throws a heavy attack, she gains a glancing buff. So really, you need to, for Tigra, and you can also use like Rentra here, those are the two main neutralized attackers. Wiccan is also a neutralized attacker, but I don't know how he would work with Conduit since he deals energy damage. I haven't tried that. But for Rentra and Tigra, basically, you want to try to get off an intercept to inflict a neutralized passive. And then once you've done that, you need to go directly into your block. You need to block bait her heavy, and then you need to, you can counter that. And basically, if she's neutralized while she throws that heavy, then that glancing buff will not appear. And from that point on, you're pretty much safe to just do standard Tigra or standard Rentra. All right, so over here, you've got some options here. CGR is going to be another very good option for this fight. You can also just use Hercules for this fight. He's a very good option. This is going to be, Corvus, Hercules, CGR would definitely work. You can use Hulkling, who's probably the best penny matchup in the game. And kind of another option is Kitty with, Kitty works here as well, is Kitty with the Tiger synergy. Once you go unblockable, you just hold your power so you don't lose your prowess. And you can just do the normal Kitty stuff. So, okay, that is it. We're going to skip ahead to my fights here. You guys can see the team that I joined with, CGR, Torch, and Guardian. This first fight, again, I'm going to use Flame On, which I've already placed. And I'm going to just play him Stun Immune. That is it. I'm just checking to, see that that Bishop is clear, basically, and ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and boost up. We are going to jump ahead a little bit. I do have an invulnerability boost on here, mainly for the next fight with Vivified, because I know that I'm going to push Mysterio pretty close to 3 bars of power. But, yeah, here we're just playing Stun Immune. We're going to build some Smolders that way. And we don't have to worry about Conflictor with my Nova Flames because they are passives. Now here he does get Pure of Heart, so if he lands in SP1, he's going to instantly melt me with bleeds, so I just got to make sure that I don't get caught off guard by an SP1. I don't mind pushing him to his SP2 because I am Incinerate immune, so I don't have to worry about all that crazy damage. But I'm just being very, very, very cautious here. Not repairing, not anything. I just want to make sure that I don't get caught off guard, mainly by that SP1, because that's like an instant death when he has Pure of Heart. Alright, CGR for this Mysterio, and so I use an invulnerability boost here. I am also Cosmic boosted for that next fight against Bishop, but with Vivified, you guys are going to see all the power that he gets. He's going to get well over a bar of power, but I have to finish my combo to get that power gain. Fortunately, he doesn't throw his SP1. If he did throw his SP1, honestly, not a big deal. I would just block it and wait out that Psychic Thorns period. And then here, because he has Damnation, his power stops. So we're able to stop him short of 3 bars of power. And the power back boost get us up to our own 3rd bar of power, and we're able to just nuke him. Alright, for this next Bishop fight, I am going to throw on 3 points in Double Edge, just to give me a little bit extra attack. And the strategy for this Bishop fight is going to be almost exactly the same as the strategy for the Void fight on 9A, which is, don't worry about Damnation, don't worry about all your judgments. All you want to do is use a Power Start 1 boost, finish a combo with your Light to get the power gain, and then you want to get to your SP2 as quickly as possible and let your Cosmic Boost do all the work. Now, because of Bishop's energy resistance and because I was a little bit nervous about this fight, I am also going to throw a heavy in this fight at the start. So I'm going to parry, and then I'm going to heavy to get the aptitude buff, which is going to increase the potency of my subsequent buffs. That's going to give me slightly more power when I use my light ending combo to get the power gain, and then most importantly, it's going to enhance my precision buff just to make sure that I'm getting absolute maximum damage on my SP2. So here we go with the heavy. Then I just want to do a full light ending combo. And I'm not going to worry about any other combos. I'm just going to hit him once just to make sure that I don't screw up the timing. And then throw my SP2. You guys can see, I mean, typically my SP2 does a lot more damage. But then with the armor breaks, that second SP2 does the trick. So we are all set. All right, so this is probably the most interesting fight of this war. This is the Maw on Conflictor and Hazard Shift, Bleed, and Shock. Okay, so I approached this fight. I did this fight wrong, basically. And I don't think that I guess I could have thought about it beforehand, but I just didn't. But, so here's what you want to do in this fight. You want to parry heavy to knock him down, to break his focus. And then you want to build to your SP3. When you throw your SP3, you're going to gain 8 force field charges. You will inflict a shock debuff, which will contribute to Conflictor, but no taunt debuff. What I did here, you guys will see, is I did what is essentially the short fight rotation for Guardian, which is go to your SP1, and here you guys are going to see I'm going to inflict shock and a taunt debuff, and that pushes him all the way up to 2.5 bars of power. So he gets way more power than I wanted, plus the SP1 only gives you, I think it's 3 force field charges. So just go to your SP3, and then once you go to your SP3, you can go to the SP2, and that'll kill him. Now here, because I haven't hit him in 6 seconds, I have that armor break debuff, which obviously gives him immunity, or not immunity, but makes him super resistant to shock and bleed. So what I did there was I just hit him once to get that armor break debuff off before my armor came back, because it does, re-trigger itself after it's been down for a while, 12 seconds, I think. Then once we get to the SP2, we're all set. That would have killed him with that shock debuff, but that got eaten by Conflictor, so he's down to 2%. Just got to finish him off with a couple extra hits. So anyway, not the prettiest, but I think going forward, knowing exactly what I would do, I think that I could come out of that fight with very close to 100% health. So again, just with Guardian, it's just going to be SP3 and then SP2. It'll take slightly longer, but that's not a big deal. All right, here we have a Human Torch fight. I already used Flame On earlier, so I don't have it available, but that's not really a big deal. This does have Spite and Rise to Power, so if I knock her down, then she'll basically get the effects of kinetic transference. I'm just not going to knock her down. Now, I'm hoping that she'll throw her SP1, but of course she's not throwing it. I'm like, here, maybe. Nope, she won't throw it. I know at least that I have the spacing on the map here that if she were to throw her SP2, I could dex out of it, and I've got plenty of space to do that. But yeah, you guys saw it went fine. So just checking to see that I still have my invulnerability boost active from the Ebony Maw fight, and I do, which is good. I am taking off dex here because I don't want Nova to spoil my dex. Now, I would say that this is probably my worst matchup of the war. It's not even necessarily a bad matchup. It's just really dangerous with this placement. This is a really good placement for Nova. A Dr. Doom would be great here. We just couldn't make it work. And, yeah, so with Cosmic Ghost Rider, basically, I just want to get him Fate Sealed so that I can, get rid of his Fury so that he can't, auto-block me. But yeah. I've got Dex off. Here I'm going to throw my Heavy. We're going to do the standard rotation. It's just with Dex off. So there he auto-blocks, which is super annoying. And he just does a full piece into my block, which is fine again. This is going to give us a Judgment, the Armor Judgment, which is cool. But we've got an invulnerability boost because of kinetic transference. And basically, once I get to the SP2, this fight is going to be fine. I just have to get there. Here he backs off, fortunately, and I'm able to intercept him with my special. When I threw the SP2, it instantly Fate Sealed him so that Fury was not available, and he couldn't auto-block me. And then we get to the SP3, and with all the armor breaks and the Fury that is naturally produced when you activate your SP3, this does the trick. And anyway, that is it for my war. We did end up winning this war. We had quite a few deaths. We died, I think, 15 or 16 times. Might have actually been higher than that. I don't know, somewhere around there. But we did take a win, fortunately. We basically, our group here, we struggled a little bit, but they're all correctable mistakes, which is all we can ask for. So that is it. Leave a like and a comment. Subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you in the next video.